everybody, this is Paige from Mosaic Moments, and today I'm going to show you a 2-page layout idea with the Horizon die collection. So right here I have all my photos planned out, which is very important when using our specialty dies. For today's layout, I'm using the 4x5 Horizon die, which has the die that fits the grid plus the layering die because it's sized to cut 4x6 photos. I'm also using the 3x4 and 3x3 die from the Horizon set. And I'm also using the 2x4 Horizon die because in the center of my Horizon design, I really wanted to fit a full 4x6 photo. So if you want to do that, definitely use the 2x4 Horizon die. Otherwise, it's a 4x4 square in the middle. So that is why I used that, the 2x4. I also found a couple photos of people that could fit within that die space. So again, really important to plan out your photos. And I have the 3x4 die here, and I did have to print my photos a little bit of a smaller size because I wanted them to, or I wanted the subjects to fit within the 3x4 Horizon die space. Otherwise it would have been a little bit too tight for me. Alright, I also have the 3x3 die, which is probably the most difficult one because the corner piece is very small. So I'm using it to show off these really fun details in the Adventureland section of the park. Right here I have a photo that was taken from a treetop, the Swiss Family treetop, and it has some photos of Adventureland from the distance. And around the edges so what I have here is these photos. And so these were actually a photo of a map of Adventureland. So definitely take pictures of maps because you just never know when they'll come in handy. And I really loved the colors. And I thought they would make a very cool design for my circle. And on the second layout, I'm going to be using the 4x5 Horizon die. I will not be making the full circle shape because you want some variety on your 2-page spreads. I also have the layering die because the 4x5 die is a little bit too big to cut into 4x6 photographs. Alright, I introduced all the dies I'm going to use today, so let's go ahead and get started. So for my page today, I'm using pattern number 477, and in this image it is rotated. I rotated it because the focal point photo I want to use is horizontal. And I also have pattern number 116, which is a pinwheel pattern, and I did mirror it. So you can look at the original images for these patterns on mosaicmoments.com/patterns. For 477, it is originally a 3-column pattern. When it's rotated now, it's more like a vertical pattern. It's also symmetrical. So even though it's going to have a circular design from the Horizon dies, you can see the pattern itself is a symmetrical layout, and on the right is a pinwheel pattern. Symmetrical or 3-column, pretty much any pattern on the gallery goes really well with a pinwheel pattern. So when in doubt, if you're looking for a second pattern to go with your page, I recommend the easiest and fastest way is to find a pinwheel pattern that works. So these are the 2 patterns I am using today. To use our dies, you will of course need a die machine. I'm using the Sizzix Big Shot. It's one of my favorite machines. Right here I have the 4x6 die from set B. You can get that in the basic bundle. And this is going to be the focal point or the center of my Horizon design. Again, I wanted to fill my Horizon design with a full 4x6 photograph. So this will be the background for this photo here. So I can lay that on top because otherwise my photo can't fit the measurements of the grid. And I'm going to go ahead and put chalk ink around so it'll dry before I put it on my layout. I really like using chalk ink. It's a nice way to add a distressed look to your pages. I know that's not everyone's style, but I really like doing it. I think it'll really fit in with the Adventureland theme because so many things in that part of the park are kind of a distressed look. Alright, so that paper mat is done, and the nice thing is I do not have to crop my 4x6 photo to fit in that space, so that's really nice and easy. Next, I'm going to cut my photos that will fit into the 3x4 horizon die. I'm just making sure the skinny part is on the bottom because it's going to go on the bottom of my layout. So as usual with any specialty die, you need to make sure that the die is cutting in the direction you want the photo to go. So always double check and pay attention as you're cutting your photos, because sometimes it does happen where you're not focusing well enough, and next thing you know, you've realized you cut your photo the wrong way you intended, and then your photo gets placed upside down or something on your layout. So definitely double check and pay attention that the cut is in the direction you want it to go. Alright, if you've been to Adventureland, I hope a lot of you know about the Dole Whips. They are delicious. And so I figured since it's part of the Adventureland, Disneyland, or well, Disney World experience, I wanted to show a picture of us with, well, my brother has the Dole Whip, and yes, that is a picture of me, and I have one that's a coconut Dole Whip, and it was super good, so I had to show it on my layout. Now I'm going to put this die away for now and get the 2x4 horizon die. Again, I'm using this one because this is the size that allows you to fit a full 4x6 photograph in the middle of your horizon die design. And in this photograph, Captain Jack Sparrow happened to fit right in that space, so that was great. You can see him around, walking around Adventureland. So, you know, my mom got a picture of him, so I had to put him on the layout. All right. So another reason why you want to plan your photographs is to make sure that they'll fit. The 2x4 horizon die is a pretty skinny space, so you want to make sure your subjects will fit in there. With people, the most important thing is to make sure their entire, at the very least anyway, that their entire face fits in without cropping it in an awkward spot or cropping in the middle of their face. I am not for that. I think it would bother me later that their face was cut up. But I found a couple photographs where the people could fit in perfectly. And also, get in the habit, if you aren't already, especially if you plan to work with these specialty dies, get in the habit of taking photos from a variety of distances, and also make sure to take some photographs vertically and other ones horizontally. You're not going to do it perfectly every time, and sometimes in certain situations you have to take a photograph really fast, but it's just an important habit to get into, so when you come home and make your Mosaic Moments layouts, you have a lot of variety of photographs. A lot of times we'll take things, the same subject, vertically and horizontally, because you never know what you're going to need that photo for, where you're going to fit it. And always know, if you take a photo from a distance, it's much easier to crop it closer than the other way around. If it's cropped closer, you can't go back the other way. The only thing you can do is crop the photograph smaller than 4x6, which we do quite a bit for these specialty dies because it's kind of one of the few ways we can fit things in. But in this photograph, I did not have to crop it down because the subject was very, very far in the distance. We were able to get photographs from the top of the Swiss family tree house and could take photos of Adventureland from a distance. And I also have these fun decorative photos, so I'm trying to decide on where to place it. This corner die is going to be the hardest to try to fill, so I recommend using subjects that are farther in the distance, or decorative subjects that you don't mind if they get cut in this kind of triangular design. I don't feel like I need to see the entire design of this little, I don't know what he is, but I just wanted to show some fun details around Adventureland area, and I thought that would be perfect for filling in these little corners. So that's usually what I use the little corners for, is little details like that. And that's what I love about Mosaic Moments layouts, is because you can remember those little details that otherwise would not probably get documented. So right here I have another photograph that was taken from a distance. Again, those photographs are nice to fill in these little corner pieces for the horizon die. All right, I have that one. So I have all those little corner pieces finished. And now what I need to get is the outline of the circle shape. So that's going to be the outer pieces of the horizon die. And like I mentioned earlier, I have photographs. So what these photographs are, there's a map, and my mom took a photograph of the whole map. And then what I did is in my photo program, I use the Mac Photos program. It comes with all the Mac products. And I kind of blew up the picture, and then I printed all the different sections of the map to decorate my layout. Every photo program is different, but usually right before you go to print, you have a slider thing over your photograph, and I use the slider to kind of blow it up, and then I can move it around. So that's how I get these photographs done. All right, and something I didn't do with the first photo is you can take your scissors and cut around that little triangle section, because I'm not going to use that whole 3x3 section on my page. And so if you have a 4x6 photograph and you want to use the same photo multiple times in your layout, you can cut out the one section and make sure you don't get the little corner. Just so you would cut it like I did here, and then you have room on the opposite corner of the photograph to cut another piece with that same shape. So that's what I'm doing here. So I cut the one corner before, and then I had room for another corner for my horizon design. So I didn't think about that the first cut, but after that I was like, wait a minute, I bet it would fit. So that's one tip today, is to cut around the piece of the die you want to use on your layout, because you're probably not going to use the entire photograph to fill in the whole space, or else you can't really tell if it's a circle shape. And just now I've been cutting with the skinnier part of the 2x4 horizon die, and that part's so small you're able to make multiple cuts on a single 4x6 photograph. So again, I just cut around it with my scissors, so that way I only have to take the portion I need and not have to cut with the entire 2x4 die, because that would eat up more photograph that I could have used, right? If you don't have any photographs to decorate the outer edges of your horizon dies, you can also use pattern paper, which is actually probably easier than using photographs. So now I have all my pieces laid out here to create my page, and now I'm going to use my Herma Dotto Re-positionable glue, which is great if you don't get your photo on the grid lines quite right or have to adjust things. You can easily pick them up and move them wherever you need. And if you need help, you can count 3 squares over and 4 squares down from the top and know where to put the top left corner of your 4x6 mat. So let's say 4 squares down and then 3 squares from the left. So hopefully you can rewind and watch that again, because I know some of you have a hard time figuring out where to place the center. You could also start with one of the corners and build around that way. I'm in the habit of starting most of the time with the biggest piece first. So I have that one, and I love this photograph because it has Adventureland in the background, and it kind of creates the title for my layout. So in this case, it was a portrait of us, but it's a fun idea and a good idea to take pictures of signs, because that sort of creates a journaling for your layout. All right, and of course with the horizon dies, I always start with the piece that fits or that's easiest to line up on the grid lines. And then you place your second piece down. We do have a video if you're not familiar with the horizon dies. If this is your first time seeing this, or if you've never used them before, we do have a how-to video of the horizon dies, and that layout actually uses pattern paper. If you're interested in learning how I use pattern paper for horizon layout, so you can click on the top right corner now and go see that demo. I'm going to go ahead and speed things up here. I created this video assuming many of you already are familiar and know how to use the horizon dies, but it's always fun to just watch pages being made. Let me know in the comments below if you find scrapbooking videos therapeutic to watch. if you'd be interested in watching more videos like this, like, would you like to see more demos where I just make a page? Even if you're familiar with the dies, I don't know. I'm curious about what you guys would think about that. If I just made, more demos like this, even if you, like I said, are familiar with it, it may be fun to just watch a page being made. I know that's very therapeutic for a lot of people. All right, and of course, these bottom right corner pieces, you usually lay the inner part of the circle first, because that lines up on the grid. And I get used to doing, one side the horizon die, and I realize, oh, I need to do the other piece first. And I'm loving how this photograph of my map is turning out. It's great. All right, so this is the complete layout, and just a reminder, this is the first layout of the 2-page spread, so this is kind of the common horizon die look. So I'm bringing back the page pattern images again because I just wanted to remind you real quick of how the right layout is going to look. It is not going to make that same circle design I already did for the left. I am still going to use some horizon dies because it is important to make your two layouts harmonize. So that's why I like using the same collection for both sides of the layout, but I'm not going to repeat that same large circle shape. I am going to be using the circle tile die for the middle because it is sort of a little repeat of the circle shape to relate to what I just did on the left side of the layout. But I just wanted to let you know that for design, we don't repeat that same shape. And this is the case with any specialty die. So Horizon is known for making that circle design. So I'm not going to repeat that on the second layout because you need harmony, but harmony doesn't mean making things the same. You also need variety. So we just want the 2 pages to relate. And so in this video, I just wanted to give you an idea of a second layout you can create along with your horizon layout. And there's other ones you can do, and this is just one I'm going to show today. So let's go ahead and make the layout for that will go with the right pattern here. So I'm going to cut with the 4x5 horizon die. This is going to be the easiest cut. I really just need the largest portion of the die to mat my photographs. I'm using the same color as I did for the focal point photo for my previous page. So super easy cut. I just need to discard the skinnier piece because I will be cutting that with the photograph instead. So I'm going to be cutting this 3 more times. So this is going to fill the 4x5 spaces on my page pattern. So I love that we have a 4x5 horizon die, so it can be horizon die that relates to the horizon dies I just use on the other layouts. So this is what I like to do with 2-page spreads. I like to at least show one other die from the same die collection on the other side. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same size as what you just used. Obviously, I did not use the 4x5 die on the other side, but it is part of the same collection, so it relates and harmonizes the 2 layouts. All right, so I have all those pieces done, and that was very quick and easy to cut all those mats. So now I'm going to cut my photographs with the layering die, which also comes with the 4x5 set. If you wanted your entire photograph to fill in the space that fits on the grid paper, you would need to print 5x7 photographs. So the layering die size was created because it can fit on a 4x6 photograph. So when you use the 4x5 horizon die, you want to make sure that rounded part is going the direction you want to place your photograph on the page. So that time I made sure it was going on the top of the photograph. And this time I'm making sure it's on the right side of the photograph. So again, plan your photographs and make sure that you're cutting the 4x5 horizon die in the direction you want it to go. Also, this die just fits on the 4x6 photographs, so if you need, you can use washi tape to keep the die extra secure over your photograph. I am using a magnetic plate, but sometimes with the Sizzix plastic plates, it doesn't necessarily stick to the magnet very well. So washi tape is always useful to keep it more secure. And you want to make sure it cuts your photograph correctly and that it's laying right on the photograph and not past the photograph, or else you might cut it too short by accident. And of course, you probably noticed I have my dies in at an angle. We say this, or I say this in just about every video. The reason why we put the dies in at an angle is because the die cuts by applying a lot of pressure to the die, and we find that pressure is distributed much better versus if you put it straight through. You're kind of like scrunching the whole die in at the same time, and we find it doesn't cut as neat as when you put it at an angle. It kind of helps with that pressure a little bit better. At least that's what we find, so if you're not doing that, try it out. So this is the last 4x5 photograph I'm cutting. And I really love the 4x5 horizon die because, of course, it's great for those closer up photographs or photos you just want to keep bigger. Now I'm going to cut just the skinny part of the 4x5 horizon die with the same map photographs. And you may have noticed I switched over to the 2x4 horizon die. It's because that skinny part is the same exact shape, but it's much easier to get the 2x4 die in the machine. So, and you can do the same thing if you didn't have the 2x4 die. You could also use the 3x4 die instead, or just the 4x5 die. But since the 4x5 die is bigger, I figured it would be easier to just cut these pieces with the 2x4 horizon die instead. And again, I'm using that same map photograph. And I'm using the same photographs again because it will be in harmony with my previous layout. And of course, it's a great design. And I just really love the colors of this map, and I thought it fit perfectly for my layout. And again, I did have to print quite a few photographs, and I'm trying to use as little of them as possible so I can get multiple cuts in one 4x6 photograph. But if you don't feel like you have a photograph, or if you don't want to print them out a lot, you can, of course, use pattern paper or just even simple cardstock to fill in the outer edges of the horizon die. I do have an at-home printer, which makes it easier to know how many photographs I need. I'm not just ordering them from somewhere else and then I may use them or may not use them. So getting a photo printer for doing Mosaic Moments projects is highly recommended, I think, especially if you're doing these specialty dies. All right, right here I have the 2x2 circle tile die, and I also used it to cut that map photograph because it's going to sort of mimic what I did on the previous layout. And then I'm going to use this. I wanted to show more details from Adventureland, so I'm going to fill this photograph in the middle. Kind of thought it was this fun little kind of like a fun little hidden thing in Adventureland. I don't know if people always pay attention to all the details, so I love that this layout will show off some of those fun details we can miss very easily. So I think that's going to look great. Now, so my page pattern has spots for 1x4 strips, and I could use the 1x4 die from set D and cut these pieces one at a time, and that would be fine, but I am instead using the 1x4 strip die so I can cut all four all at once. So if you have these strip dies, it's really handy to use them if you need more than one cut of the same shape. This die is going to be a very tight cut on a 4x6 photograph, so I am using washi tape to make sure that photograph is extra secure on my die so it doesn't slip around. And the photograph is a little bit long, so I'm going to use scissors to trim it off so it can roll through the machine better. Basically, you just want to line the photograph against one of the blades on the strip die. So don't put it over the blade, just right up next to it, and then you can tape it down to make sure the photograph will not move. So I recommend using washi tape for these very tight die cuts with your photographs. Obviously, if you have paper, you can cut a little bit bigger and it's not as big of a deal. But with photographs, we don't want to have to reprint them. All right, so I'm just taking these little excess pieces off. And they are attached together so you don't lose them, and you can keep them in order, although I won't really need them in order for my layout, but that's okay. I forgot to mention before that for today's layout, I'm using 12 by 12 Persimmon grid paper. You can purchase it by itself, and it also comes in the Fresh and Fruity grid collection. So this was a wonderful layout for my Adventureland photographs because it has the multiple colors and it has kind of a distressed look. So it was a fun choice for today's photo theme. And to match the focal point on the other side, I'm also using chalk ink on these 4x5 matte spaces. I have a piece of cardstock here just so I don't get the ink on my grid paper. And it's also great to have a sheet of paper around so you don't get the glue everywhere. Like if you had photographs on your layout, you don't want to get glue on your photos. And just like last time, you basically stick the piece on that's going to line up the easiest on the grid lines. And then you put the other piece on. Just notice right now I'm putting my photograph on, and that lays on top of the 4x5 horizon die that fits the grid. So I have one piece down, and now I'm gonna, basically the 4x5 die is gonna rotate around the layout. So again, it won't make that circle design like on the other layout, but it still relates to it because I'm still using a die from the same collection. So I put this one down, and then the little piece is going on. All right, and then I get to lay my photograph on top. And so you just kind of have to eyeball and all the sides need to be even around your photograph. All right, and yes, every time I keep putting the chalk ink on. Because again, I kind of wanted it to, I wanted the distressed look. I thought would fit the theme of my page, but I also felt like I need a little more of a darker edging to pop more along the grid paper. So that's another reason why I use the chalk ink, is because it helps, sometimes it helps the mattes to pop a little more on the grid paper when you darken them or make them a different color. All right, I'm almost done with this one. Again, big fan of chalk ink. I use it all the time. And I glued the back of this. And again, you can see how the 4x5 horizon shape, it's rotating around the layout. So it has that nice rotational balanced design. All right, I have my last photograph down, and now I'm going to place my circle tile die in the middle. So I have the piece that fits on the grid paper, and it was cut with that. I had some leftover photos from when I cut it with the 3x3 horizon die, and so I was able to use that extra photo piece for my circle tile die. And then of course I can place the photo that was cut into a circle into the middle. And now I have my strip dies here. I'm going to take the washi tape off. I don't really know if it matters whether you leave it off or on, but I prefer to just have it off. And then they're all attached together, so I can easily glue the back of each one and then tear them apart before I put it on the page. Again, that's really nice if you're planning to put them in order. I'm not planning to put them right next to each other because they're going to go rotationally around the layout. But I thought this plant was a nice little detail. I wasn't sure. I didn't really have a pattern paper or anything else that fit, and I thought a cardstock would be too plain, so I decided to show another photo from the Adventureland area. All right, now the second layout of my 2-page spread is finished, so now I can reveal the entire layout. So here's the 2-page spread. On the left, you can see here I changed out the 2 photographs before. They were photos that were taken more at a distance, but I thought they kind of blended in too much with my map photographs. So I decided to show more detailing from the Adventureland area, and I kind of like it better than how I had it previously because I wanted to show more of those details anyway. So I have to save the longer distance photographs for another project. And as I was talking about before, I did not repeat the circle design on the other side. I went with a pinwheel design, and it still harmonizes with the page on the left. So on the left, I have the common horizon circle design, and again, I did not want to repeat that. You need variety in your designs. So on the right, I decided to use the 4x5 horizon die from the same collection, and then I repeated the circle shape with the 2x2 circle die in the middle. So you can do that as well, as to find another die that's very similar with the specialty die you're using. Anyway, this is the end of today's demo. I hope you guys learned a lot. If you have any questions, definitely ask them below. I know a lot of you have questions about 2-page spreads, but I hope this gives you an idea, and you are welcome to use this layout. So if you have a horizon die, you're welcome to use the other page pattern on the right for your spread. And if you enjoyed this video, let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And also don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you get more videos like this one. I hope to make more 2-page spreads. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy scrapping at home, and I will see you next time.